Trap is a movie that asks what would happen if a serial killer was trapped at a pop concert. The tagline is 30,000 fans, 300 cops, 1 serial killer, no escape. It's the latest movie written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and of course when you go into an M. Night movie you're just thinking, what's the crazy twist gonna be this time? It's half the reason you watch his films, a crazy concept with a crazy twist, that is what you sign up for. But will Trap fall into the greats alongside The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs, and Split, or will it be a miss like After Earth, Old, and Knock at the Cabin? Let's find out. If you're new here, I'm Morph, this is my channel where I talk about movies and TV, so hit the like and subscribe for more like it. And you can find more of me in the description below, including my gaming channel, my bedtime story podcast, my Instagram, and more. So, what happens in this movie? Cooper is a serial killer known as the Butcher, and he's played by Josh Hartnett, who takes his teenage daughter to a pop concert. We pretty much know that he's the killer from the start. It's in the trailers, and really early on we get him going to the bathroom, opening up an app on his phone to look at a prisoner in his basement. Josh Hartnett's always a good watch, having a bit of a resurgence recently after his appearances in Black Mirror and Oppenheimer. We haven't seen too much of him since the early 2000s when he was in 30 Days of Night and Sin City. For me, he will always remind me of The Faculty, a criminally underrated and fun horror film. Him and his kid are at this concert for a singer called Lady Raven, played by M. Night's daughter. That explains why there's so many unnecessarily long sections of them singing and performing. The concert adds nothing to the story, but the entire concept of this film was built around what if you wrote an album and it was kind of worked into a film. Like, that is where the idea for the film came from, so that's why it's here. She previously did a song for his movie Old and the TV show Servant. The Butcher starts to notice that police are filtering in and surrounding the venue, so he asks this guy at the merch stall what's going on. He tells him, "Oh hey, you know that killer, the Butcher? This is all for him. It's a trap." Having to suspend my disbelief strike number 1, we're told that every member of staff in this stadium knows about what is happening today with this big sting. Not only that, but they attended a meeting that morning and were told what to do. This guy even blabs his mouth to Cooper and gives him his password that proves that he works there and isn't the killer. Sir, what are you doing? What's funny is that this is actually how people would act, which is exactly why the police would never involve the hundreds of stadium staff in this kind of thing anyway. So now Cooper is scrambling to find a way to escape, causing distractions like pushing a drunk lady down the stairs, or exploding bottles of oil in a deep fat fryer which permanently scar some young worker, all so he can sneak around and see if there's a way out. But there isn't one, so he goes up to one of the concert workers and pretends that his teenage daughter has leukemia, and tricks them into picking her to go on stage to dance with Lady Raven. A bit like those girls that get selected to get the hat at the Taylor Swift Eras tour. So Cooper is working his way backstage, he's smoozing it up and everyone loves him. The character is super charismatic, and that is one of the good things about this movie is Josh Hartnett's performance. There's loads of great little looks and fading smiles that just give you this feeling that everything is not okay with this guy. His plan to escape through the back is foiled when there are police backstage as well and there's no way out, so he's like, okay, time to get drastic. He asks Lady Raven if he can talk to her on their own because, oh, you heard about my daughter, right? She's got leukemia, so can I talk to you for a second? Suspension of disbelief strike number 2. No pop star security or their team is letting a 40-year-old man get backstage for a convo one-on-one with one of its stars. So they go into a back room and Cooper is like, hey, check this out, and shows her his phone with the guy in the basement on it. He's got this live feed and he's like, so here's the thing, I can push a button and release carbon monoxide and this guy's gonna die, or you can take me and my daughter out of here in your limo so we don't get checked by the police. You can save this guy or you can catch me. By the way, like, I'm the Butcher, that serial killer, so it's up to you. She's like, okay, I'll help you. So they go and get in her limo and Raven says, I'd love to see your home, to the teenage daughter who obviously gets hyped up. Who wouldn't want their favorite pop star to visit their house? So the limo takes a detour and we visit the family. At this point, we're off the rails from what the trailers have led you to believe. Everything was going to be set in that concert, and we were kind of expecting the ending to be, does he or doesn't he get out of there? We're halfway through the movie, and there is this big change. We are outside of the concert, and there is still an hour of movie to go. While they're in the home, she grabs Cooper's phone and says, oh, I've got to go to the bathroom, and takes his phone to the bathroom to talk to the hostage on the app, asking him if he knows of any kind of landmarks or things that can help them find where he is. Cooper is screaming and banging on the door to give his phone back, and his family's like, what the hell is wrong with you? The guy says he remembers a broken lion statue and perhaps a blue door, so Lady Raven goes live on her phone and starts to ask her fans on her live, hey, does anyone know of a broken lion statue near you, and is it near a blue door? She's like, if there is, tell an adult and go and help someone, there's someone in the basement. And just someone in the chat randomly says, yeah, that sounds like something near me, I'll tell my uncle. What? Strike number 3. I know that the internet is crazy at finding people, but if you're this big of a pop star that you have that many people in your life, that you can find this guy in less than 30 seconds, this is essentially like Taylor Swift being convinced to go and visit someone's home and be left alone with them. It just wouldn't happen. At this point, the kind of suspensions of disbelief are so annoying that it can only be put down to the tone of the film and totally intentional. M. Night wanted this to be like a 90s thriller throwback and very tongue-in-cheek, but I just found it annoying. Raven opens the door and finds the butcher standing there. His family's nowhere to be seen. He takes his phone and he sees that the guy has already been saved. He's already been saved from the basement. That was fast. So now he's pissed. He takes Lady Raven to his wife's car, but when he opens the garage door up to drive out, his family is standing in the way, and this kind of freezes him up. He kind of just gets freaked out and doesn't realize that they could have escaped that room. He's kind of disappointed in himself, and it gives him a bit of a breakdown. The thing with this character is that he prides himself on being able to think every last thing through and see how things are going to go. It's referred to by M. Night as his superpower, and so the fact that he didn't realize that the house was close to a tree and his family could get out of the upstairs window, it kind of shuts him down. This allows for Lady Raven to slip out of the limo and go and join the family. She had previously texted the limo driver to call the police, and they show up. The police are storming the house when a SWAT officer comes over to the limo and says, hey, I'll drive her out of here, and the limo driver gets out and this new guy gets in. This is the easiest fake out to spot in the entire movie because, of course, it's the butcher dressed up as a SWAT guy. Why did the limo driver get out? Why did the police let them drive away in the middle of raiding this place? She's a key witness and they hadn't even got her statement yet. None of it makes sense. We're just here along for the ride, apparently. The limo drives off, he's like, surprise, it's me, and he handcuffs her to the door inside the limo and says, I'm gonna take you somewhere I have that's all quiet, hehehe. Except they end up stuck in some traffic, which allows Lady Raven to put the window down, and everyone in the street knows her, they're all a big fan of hers, and say, oh my god, it's Lady Raven, and she's like, help me, call the police, as Cooper puts the window back up. Raven breaks free, slips out of the car, and the police arrive instantly. They surround the car, move the public away, shoot the car, but oh no, it's just some clothes that he took off and propped up in the driver's seat. He's escaped again. Throughout the movie, we're being shown this little old lady with white hair who is said to be this expert profiler. She's sort of everything that's going to catch this guy, but we've seen nothing to indicate that. All of the police and her should be embarrassed by this point. He's got away again. We're back at Cooper's home, and the old lady profiler says to the wife, hey, we took your kids somewhere safe. Are you sure you don't want to go there too? She's like, nah, I'm good. Okay, that makes perfect sense. She says, alright, we'll leave some police outside for you. Surprise, Cooper is in the house. He's sat at the kitchen table when she goes back in, and he's mad. And he's worked out that it's his wife who set the trap to begin with. The wife's played really nicely by Alison Pill. If you're trying to place where you know her from, she's Kim Pine in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World 14 years ago. Oh my god, I feel so old. She suspected that he was having an affair, so she started to keep a closer eye on him. She then realized that he might be this butcher that everyone is talking about. She left the concert stub at a crime scene and called the police so that they would look into him. Babe, just go to the police and say my husband is the butcher. Like, what are you doing? This was so elaborate for no reason. So the butcher is like, well, now I have to kill you. And she's like, well, let's at least have this slice of pie first. What? So he has the last slice of pie and realizes that she has drugged him. He says, you found my bag. He stands up to try and get at her and sees a vision of his mother calling him to the front door. A lot of the reasoning for him, the lore that's kind of peppered through this movie, seems to be that he was abused by his mother. Like all great serial killers, obviously. He makes his way to the front door and gets tased by the police multiple times who are waiting for him. Probably the biggest suspension of disbelief throughout the whole film was the idea that the police wouldn't just blast him at this point. It's set in America. Ain't nobody getting tased when they're running at police with a cleaver. So they finally got their man. They've got him cuffed and lead him outside. He crouches down to lift up a fallen over bicycle of one of his children, and then they act like they're gonna shoot him for moving suddenly. His wife's like, "Oh my god, don't shoot him. He just likes to tidy," and they allow it. His kid shows up and hugs him, and why they let that happen, I don't know, but they stick him in the back of the van, and he's all alone back there. And he reveals that he stole a metal spoke off of the bike wheel. He picks the lock of his cuffs and laughs and chuckles to himself as he looks at the screen, and the movie ends. He's going to escape again. So really, there is no big final twist other than him escaping again. This guy is like Houdini when it comes to escaping the cops. Overall, the movie felt like M. Night watched Dexter recently and was like, I want to make that, and mixed it with this really interesting concept of the concert trap. Instead of the one big twist, we just get lots of little kind of twists and turns peppered throughout, but none of them are really groundbreaking or shocking, and we see pretty much all of them coming a mile away. Probably the biggest twist, and M. Night has said this himself, is the fact that the movie changes entirely halfway through. The structure of the movie is the twist. Once we leave the concert, we are kind of, as the audience, going, hang on, this isn't what we came here for. What's happening now? What's going to happen next? The problem is that second half of the movie doesn't work as well, and it just feels like a bit of a mishmash of uninspiring and uninteresting twists and turns which don't really make sense. They only work because the characters are being so dumb. The ending is meant to play out like M. Night thinks we're rooting for this guy in a Dexter Morgan type way, that we want him to escape. He said in an interview, this guy has so many fun characteristics about him, you find yourself rooting for him to get away. I personally didn't feel that way at all, and I love a serial killer character. I love myself an anti-hero, but I did not feel that for Cooper, aka the Butcher. What did you feel? Let me know in a comment. Everything we've seen paints him as a pretty bad guy. We see him consistently evading the police all the way through the movie, only for him to evade them again at the end. There's not really any growth there, nobody learned any lessons. I was left pretty flat by it. A possible theory is that this connects to his superhero trilogy. It's like slash villain series with Split, Glass, and Unbreakable. Is the Butcher meant to be the next supervillain who has a brain that lets him know exactly how to escape dumb police officers? In an interview, M. Night described Cooper's ability to compartmentalize as a superpower, which I felt was a very pointed way of putting it. He even described the movie as an origin story in a way. He says that all of his movies are origin stories, really. But standing on its own, this movie just doesn't really hold up. And I don't want to bash M. Night too much. I like his films, and the fact that he mostly self-finances everything is something that I respect. I'd say 50% of the time I enjoy what he does, and this is his 16th film, so that's really not a bad score. The man is prolific, and by his own admission, he says after the first film he thought, wow, I've really got to trick someone into letting me make another one. Unfortunately, this was a miss for me, and it goes in the other pile. So what is this film really about? At the core of this movie is a battle of ideologies. M. Night, the writer and director, said that it's Lady Raven versus Cooper the Butcher. She is someone who is connected to everyone else, who has embraced tech and the internet. She lets herself be seen, be vulnerable, and that is her superpower. Whereas Cooper is someone who has isolated himself from everyone. Even what people see in person is fake. He is totally unconnected to the rest of the world. In the scene in the concert, when everyone takes their phones out and are all kind of acting as one, they're all together, he is not a part of this. And again, this is notable where Lady Raven uses her superpower of connectedness to save the life of the man in the basement. It is the power of the crowd to which she is connected. All in all, if you are someone that can suspend your disbelief to enjoy a ride with a movie and not get annoyed by super dumb characters, you might have a good time with this one. For me, it was a miss, but let me know what you thought in a comment below. If you haven't seen this film, let me know in a comment what film you'd like to see me talk about next. I've been MadMorph, and this is my movie club, so like and subscribe for more like this one. Until then, good night.